Chapter 11. Three Magic Words. Man is not in the world to set it right, but to see it rightly. Eric Butterworth. And cast now your nets on the right side. John 21:6. The color of the rose lies within us, not in the rose. John Keats. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter how many times you have failed in the past, I've got good news. What single quality do we find in all men and women of high achievement? They raise their sights and tap into their inner power by using the three magic words. Experts call them the three most important words in life. Before approaching the idea upon which this lesson is based, keep in mind that the same theme runs throughout the entire text. The purpose of this lesson is to aid you in unlocking and expanding your mind so you can think with accuracy and attract the results you desire. In addition, you will be able to pry open the door that leads to the power you will need as you complete your search for riches. Recently, I counseled a friend who was in deep despair. When I refused to join in his lament and expressed my faith that there are no unsolvable problems, that in the higher realms of his mind he could find the answer to any apparent obstacles, he promptly dismissed me with, "That's the same old positive stuff. You've got to face the facts." Though his remarks seem reasonable, the problem is that we don't always have all the facts. Many times we confuse facts with theories, outward appearances, or worse yet, assumptions. For instance, a quick glimpse at the morning's daybreak may lead you to believe that the sun is rising, and yet precisely at the same moment, at another point on earth, someone else may be facing a beautiful sunset. The truth is that the sun neither rises nor sets, and we should give thanks that it never does, or the entire solar system would be tragically disrupted. The sun shines eternally. Its rising and setting are simply views from our limited vantage points. The sunrise and sunset are changing experiences, but the sun is a changeless reality. Think of the process we call sight. Since infancy, we've used our eyes in progressive degrees of perceptiveness. Through the process of sight, objects fall on the retina of the eye upside down, as in a camera. Through nerve endings that are light sensitive, a picture is distributed over several recording points. But by the miracle of vision, we do not see those individual points. These tracings are transformed into one solid view. Furthermore, what the mind sees is not the solid picture that is communicated to the brain, but what our experience has conditioned us to see. To put it plainly, seeing is not believing. Believing is seeing. We see things not as they are, but as we are. Our perception is shaped by our previous experiences. You see in your life essentially what you believe. Oliver Wendell Holmes, the learned Supreme Court Justice, said, "Man's mind, stretched to a new idea, never goes back to its original dimension." The principles discussed in this book may require you to stretch to new ideas. Should you take these words and apply them to your life, you will feel the stretch marks in your mind, and you will never again return to the person that you were before. This personal transformation from the old you, a person bogged down with impossibilities and powerlessness, to the new you, a person who realized that he is more than just a body, able to think and feel and use his mind in any way that he chooses, will help you tap into the part of you that cannot be understood through the physical senses. This new you is a part of the universal consciousness, guided by principles and forces that are always at work. These forces are, in turn, guided by three magic words. The words that I speak of are right mental attitude. A right mental attitude is defined as the correct position or bearing in terms of action, feeling, or mood. And it is our actions, feelings, or moods that will determine the actions, feelings, or moods of others towards us. It is our attitude towards life that will determine life's attitude towards us. Now, what does this mean? Your attitude sets the stage. Our attitudes set the stage for what will occur in our lives. Good attitude, good results. Fair attitude, fair results. Poor attitude, poor results. Each of us shapes his own life, and the shapes of our lives will be and are determined by our attitude. The person who goes through life as millions do, saying, with my luck, the whole thing will go right down the drain, goes down the drain over and over again. His attitude sets the stage for failure. If we expect failure and dwell on its possibility, then we will undoubtedly fail again and again. When there is fear of failure, warned World War II hero General George Patton, there will be failure. Your mental attitude is a two-way gate on the pathway of life. It can be swung one way toward success or the other way towards failure. A right mental attitude, on the other hand, is the habit of keeping your mind busily locked on your desires and goals. With this attitude, you can keep your mind tuned in to those things which you wish to experience and off the things you do not want. The majority of people go through life with their mental attitudes dominated by fears, anxieties, and worries, seeing only the appearance of failure, which somehow has a way of becoming reality. Millions of people continually crash on the rocks of bad consequences, often suffering irreparable damage because they allowed themselves to get caught in rough waters without staying focused. A right mental attitude is the fixed compass, assuring that every experience, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, yields some form of benefit. Only a right mental attitude pays off in the affairs of our everyday living. You hold the key. A number of years ago, a haggard-looking, beaten old man entered a posh executive's office in downtown Chicago. Without a formal introduction, the tattered stranger said that a mutual friend recommended that he make the visit with the hope of turning his life around. He went on to say that he had decided to end his life if he failed to get help. From all outward appearances, the executive's guess was a failure. He had that dull stare of defeat in his eyes, and the drooping shoulders of a man worn down by life. Yet someone must have recognized some degree of worth in him, or surely he would have not been sent to the executive's office. The smartly clad businessman stood aghast as he pondered what to do for this unfortunate soul. His imagination raced until suddenly he stumbled upon an idea. In the rear of his private office was a full-length mirror which was concealed by drapes. The downhearted visitor was asked to stand in front of the curtain while an experiment was being performed. He was told that very little could be done for him, but he would be introduced to someone who might be able to help him regain his self-confidence and overcome his misfortune. After building up to a dramatic climax, the gentleman jerked the drapes apart, and the dejected old man was allowed to meet himself face to face in the mirror. His jaw dropped. He looked at his own image, stunned and speechless. After a lengthy scrutiny, he realized the solution to his problem. With sincere thanks, he hugged his compassionate friend, turned, and went on his way. Psychologists know that poverty-stricken people maintain a poverty consciousness, some of them from early childhood throughout life. They think in terms of poverty, they fear poverty, they talk poverty, and prophetically they expect poverty. But they have been given the power to intervene and affect the odds in their favor. James Allen, the English essayist and author of the masterpiece As a Man Thinketh, was unequivocal on this point when he stated, "A man can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up his thoughts. They themselves are makers of themselves. The mind is the master weaver. No man has ever attained the higher brackets of success without a right mental attitude." According to Napoleon Hill, a right mental attitude is the habit of searching for the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit which comes with every failure, defeat, or adversity we experience. This seed often germinates into something beneficial. A right mental attitude is the habit of evaluating all problems and distinguishing between those you can master and those beyond your control. The person with a right mental attitude will solve the problems he can control and shun those he has no control over, so they do not influence his mental outlook. A right mental attitude is the habit of acting with a definite purpose, with full belief in the soundness of that purpose. and in the ability to achieve it. For most of us, learning new habits takes time, but once positive habits are mastered, life takes on a new meaning. Those with poor or negative attitudes toward learning, for example, won't learn very much. If you assume an attitude that you cannot reach your goals, you generally will not. With an attitude of despair, you're defeated before you start. What you achieve or fail to achieve is due in large measure to your overall attitude. In order to develop a right mental attitude, you must develop the right mental attitude towards yourself. It can't be repeated too often. It is the attitude that you have toward yourself that will determine your attitude toward your world. Your attitude reflects the real you. It's strange that we're so familiar with ourselves that we tend to take ourselves for granted. We tend to minimize the things that we can accomplish as well as the goals we can reach. For some equally strange reason, we believe others to be more capable of success and dwell on our ineptness. There remains an enormous gap of underdeveloped potential in all of us, a great reserve of talent and ability that we habitually fail to see. Look at today's black achievers who have reached amazing heights. No matter their endeavors, wherever you find men or women of distinction, you will find a person with the right mental attitude. You need only to think of your friends and acquaintances to prove this. The successful take the attitude that they can accomplish whatever they set their minds to. They have a healthy attitude towards themselves and, as a result, towards life. Subsequently, they aim high and come to be called successful, outstanding, and achievers. Quite frankly, they are no more brilliant or outstanding than the majority of people with whom they come in contact. It's their attitude that makes the difference, the least likely to succeed. In the winter of 1968, Willie Davis was at an impasse. Davis was an all-pro standout with the world champion Green Bay Packers, a man possessed who could single-handedly dominate a football game. At the height of his career, he was arguably the best defensive player in the game. Despite his on-the-field heroics, however, Davis was falling far short of his off-season pursuit to complete a master's degree program at the University of Chicago. Davis had been toiling away for a number of years, but the routinization and rigor made him miserable. He was ready to throw in the towel. After all, he figured he could make a decent living in a business without a graduate degree, so why bother? This particular morning was tougher than most. Almost instinctively, Davis cut his classes and drove to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to discuss his problems with then head coach Vince Lombardi. For the first time in his life, Willie Davis thought of quitting. "I thought you had classes today," Lombardi said to Davis after greeting him. "I had some personal business to attend to," was Davis' sheepish reply. After seeing that Lombardi wasn't buying his story, Davis opened up and shared his concern with his coach. After listening intensively, the usually fiery Lombardi ignored Davis' self-pity and used a clever analogy to help solve his problems. "I've been meaning to tell you, Willie, that we reviewed last year's game films, and the entire staff agrees that you were at your best in the final quarter of every game. For the average defensive end, the fourth quarter is sheer torture. Many players just quit. They don't realize it, but it shows in their performance, and it shows in their lives. But not you, Willie. You're a winner. You've never quit anything in your life, have you?" "I guess not, Coach," Davis said ashamedly. Later that afternoon, while driving back to Chicago, Davis reflected on his conversation with Lombardi. The far-sighted yet humble head coach had a worthy message. Davis began to think about the many hardships he had experienced during his life. He had encountered the typical problems that many blacks had confronted in the hostile Southern environment: the problems of poverty and withheld opportunities, the problems of low self-esteem and shallow dreams. But Willie Davis was a fighter. Lombardi was right. He had never been a quitter, and he wasn't going to start now. Renewed and refreshed, he began to apply the same attitude that he possessed on Sunday afternoons to his studies. For the next two sessions at the university's prestigious business school, Davis barely missed the dean's list by only a fraction of a point, there before making it in his final quarter. Willie Davis was accustomed to tough uphill battles. For example, in his senior year at the tiny segregated high school in Texarkana, Arkansas, Davis was voted the least likely to succeed. 4 years later, bent on proving his classmates wrong, he was the only male from his class to graduate from college. After graduate school and a teaching stint in Cleveland, Ohio, Davis subconsciously began seeking fresh challenges. In 1964, his bid to land an off-season sales job with the Schlitz Brewing Company was unsuccessful. He saw the brewery as a unique opportunity and hoped to cut his marketing teeth within a major firm. After several attempts, he finally convinced the company to hire him in its sales and public relations department. A marketing major in college, Davis was in his element. Once on board, he learned all he could before venturing off on his own. By 1970, he transferred his skills and became the owner and operator of Willie Davis Distributing in Los Angeles, Schlitz's largest beer distributorship on the West Coast. 2 years later, he rejoined the parent company and served on its board of directors. In addition to his distributorships, Davis owned a wide array of enterprises. He branched out from distribution to broadcasting, by 5 highly profitable radio stations within varied markets. From there, he maneuvered his way into trucking, using his company to transport his beer across the country. In addition to his outside activities, he still finds time to serve on the boards of many of the nation's most successful companies, including Mattel, Fireman's Fund Insurance, and MGM Studios. Paradoxically, the man who was voted the least likely to succeed nearly 30 years ago has become one of the most likely to succeed within corporate America. Sit up and take notice as he gives you a hint to his secret to success. I'm often asked, what was the turning point in your life? In response, I would have to point to my junior year in high school as the catalyst. During that year, I lacked direction and wrestled with a poor self-image. With no idea of my capabilities, more than once I considered dropping out. As I look back, that would have obviously been a terrible mistake. But one day while walking home from school, my outlook changed for the better. As I passed a city work crew digging ditches, I noticed from their weary and worn faces their disdain for their jobs as well as their low self-esteem. Their attitudes were poor, and it reflected in their half-hearted effort. I shuddered at the thought of switching places with them. I didn't want to dig ditches, but if I had to, I would be the best ditch digger in town. Only then did I realize that attitude meant everything. I knew that my attitude, more than any other factor, would determine my success or failure. Subsequently, I returned to school with a deeper sense of commitment and purpose. Don't let his message get lost. Willie Davis has more than just a good attitude towards life. He has the right mental attitude. He possesses a deep fundamental belief that whatever the difficulties, no matter the obstacles, he will reach his goal. The majority of people begin their days in neutral as far as their attitude is concerned. They depend on external stimuli to determine their attitudes for them. If things go well, their attitude is fine. But if things go poorly, watch out. Their attitudes will reflect these circumstances. Beware of the most dangerous and destructive force on earth, a negative mental attitude. Attitudes and goals. The role your attitude plays in goal achievement cannot be overestimated. Goals without the right mental attitude are not goals at all. There is no sense in pursuing them, for there is no way to reach them. The right mental attitude says, I can and I will. And when failure strikes, as it most assuredly will, the right mental attitude has a fallback position from which it will rally again. Unfortunately and unnecessarily, too many highly skilled people with impressive academic backgrounds stay on the lower rungs of the ladder of success. Above them can be found a surprising number of men and women with less education and schooling. What is the difference? The three magic words, right mental attitude, is more important than knowledge. Jesse Jackson believes the right mental attitude will help you reach any star. No matter how adverse your circumstances, how you react, your attitude is up to you. Even in the worst situations, you still have the choice between the high road and the low road. It doesn't take money to buy character, integrity, and decency. Incredible breakthroughs happen once you face your obstacles with the right mental attitude. In 1969, Dempsey Travis was on the verge of tears as he received a BA degree from Chicago's Roosevelt University. Several years later, this scene was repeated when he concluded his graduate studies at Northwestern University. Travis's accomplishments are well known and documented, but the road to success has not always been smooth. Dempsey Travis was born on Chicago's South Side, the son of a stockyard laborer. After completing high school, he joined the Army and was honorably discharged. Young, energetic, and eager to get ahead, he immediately sought a career in business, but felt inadequate. Why? Because in his own words, I was such a poor reader, I could barely hold a decent conversation. Hoping to launch a business of his own, Travis saw his lack of college training as a hurdle that he doubted he would ever clear. Travis remembers his moments of doubt. After high school, I wanted to go to college, but my reading skills were so poor. I thought, what's the use? Even if I started, I didn't know if I would ever finish. He sat quietly and weighed his options. As he came precariously close to dropping the idea of a college degree, the right mental attitude helped him set the record straight. Travis met his challenge head on and went into action. Dempsey Travis read and read and read relentlessly 5, 6, and sometimes 7 hours a day after work to sharpen his reading skills and enhance his vocabulary. Through it all, he maintained the right attitude. Within a short period, the self-assured Travis was reading a book a week and began to master many of literature's most scholarly works. And then he overcame the final barrier. He took the plunge and enrolled in college. He says it was the turning point of his life. Today, the man who was such a poor reader is the president of the Travis Realty Company, the Sivart Mortgage Company, and a publishing enterprise. Over the course of his professional career, Dempsey Travis has received many honors, including the International Black Writers Award for his literary skills. Dempsey Travis has learned the secret of success. He has discovered that nothing is impossible if you program yourself with the right mental attitude. If you eliminate the word impossible from your vocabulary, if you reprogram yourself to think positively and view your problems rightly, and if you look for the possibilities, a right mental attitude enables him to obtain the desires of his heart. Problems are inevitable, yet through the power of your mind, you can exert a great deal of control over your destiny. When Napoleon Hill first penned such statements as, anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, and when you're ready for a thing, it will make its appearance, he based his beliefs on centuries of empirical evidence drawn from human experience. The great illusion called misfortune, when viewed rightly, is just that, an illusion. Misfortune and setbacks are often illusions because we fail to connect the long-term benefits to the negative occurrence. Whenever you are faced with a knotty dilemma, you always have a clear choice in how you will deal with it. If you brood over the disappointment, you simply magnify your problems out of proportion. It's like taking a pebble off the beach and holding it close to your eyes. This small stone, when held close, can completely block your view. But if you hold it at a proper viewing distance, it can be examined and properly dealt with. If you drop it at your feet, it becomes a stepping stone. Dr. Eric Butterworth, a Unity minister and one of the most learned minds of this century, summed up this idea beautifully in his book, Discover the Power Within You. Man is not in the world to set it right, but to see it rightly. And right seeing is the passport from illusion to the heaven of accomplishment. If you want to change the world, or to be influenced for such a change, you must begin within yourself by changing the way you see the world. I keep my thoughts centered upon only those things that I want to see manifest in my life. America isn't ready for a black talk show. Arsenio Hall's time had come. He had stepped into center stage in the game of life. Hall had just gained national prominence by signing a 2-year multi-million-dollar contract with Paramount Pictures. In June 1988, his first movie, the box office hit Coming to America, was released. His good fortune continued with the promotion of yet another comedy, Harlem Nights, again featuring him and his longtime pal Eddie Murphy, that would be released the following summer. Due to Hall's enormous success, Paramount approached him with the idea of hosting a late-night talk show, something he had waited his entire life for. But now that his chance had come, he surprisingly turned the studio down, not once but twice. Why? Many sleepless nights ensued as Hall searched for answers and questioned his sanity. By the time Arsenio was 12, he had already developed a laser-like focus. Every evening, he sat on the edge of his bed, long after his mother had fallen asleep, attentively watching his idol perform. He wanted to follow the path blazed by Johnny Carson and become the next great late-night talk show host. Hall's admiration for Carson goes back even further. As a child reared in Cleveland, he set up chairs in the basement of his home and pretended to host some of the most starlit names in Hollywood. Even in college, nearly a decade later, he announced in a speech class that he would one day replace the showbiz legend. After graduating from Kent State, where he majored in speech communications, Hall suppressed his desires and worked as a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company. The pay was good, but the monotony was sheer torture. One night, after watching a Tonight Show segment, he decided to pursue his dream. Against his mother's wishes, he quit his job the next day. As an entertainer, Hall delighted in his work. Unfortunately, it didn't pay the bills. At least not immediately. Following a series of breaks as a stand-up comic in Chicago's nightclubs, he left for Los Angeles to perfect his craft. Once he was in California, his skills began to flourish. Through numerous auditions and a little luck, he had established himself as a hot young comedian and promising actor. But in between bit parts and much shorter layoffs, Hall never relinquished hope of one day entertaining late-night viewers. And now that his moment had arrived, you would think he'd be poised and prepared to make the commitment. Amazingly, he was hesitant. Everyone was telling me, Arsenio recalls, it's hard, too hard to crack into the late-night ratings. Television isn't ready for a black talk show host. This is America, they said, and you can't forget it. I began to listen to this nonsense. Does he make the right decision? Uncertain as to whether television was indeed ready for a black talk show, and advised by those close to him to reject Paramount's offer, Hall hesitated. Place yourself in Hall's position. Unfortunately, we live in a negative world, a world in which we continually meet people who try to convince us that what we want to do can't be done. In truth, every successful person in history has been told many times that what he wanted couldn't be done. The important question is whether or not you or anyone else will allow negative inputs to prevent you from taking action. Thankfully, Arsenio Hall thought clearly and considered the facts, and then fate intervened. On July 21st, 1988, while promoting an upcoming movie, Hall appeared as a guest on The Tonight Show. Here he was at last, sitting in the chair to the right of the man, Johnny Carson, who had inspired him for most of his life. It was eerie, he remembers. I sat there watching the master at work. I soon realized the opportunity that was before me. It was my goal. Right then I decided to accept Paramount's offer. I said the hell with too hard. I had to trust my own judgment. All my life I've wanted to do what this man does. In order to make the correct decision in any situation, you must be able to think clearly and accurately and approach all the facts with a healthy skepticism. Achievers who possess the right mental attitude learn to trust their own judgment and are cautious no matter who tries to influence them. The accurate thinker recognizes all the facts, both the good and the bad, and assumes the responsibility of separating and organizing the two, choosing the facts that serve his need and rejecting all others. The majority of people who fail to accumulate riches sufficient to meet their needs are easily influenced by the opinions of others. They permit newspapers or friends or relatives to do their thinking for them. Opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. Everyone has a flock of opinions ready to be heaped upon anyone who will listen. If you are influenced by opinions when you reach decisions, you will not succeed in any undertaking. The meaning of the right mental attitude. The measure of success that you achieve in your lifetime, personal, financial, or otherwise, will be governed more by your attitude than by any other single factor. There are no physical, intellectual, or spiritual limitations that cannot be overcome with the right mental attitude. It is your inner conviction, the fire in your guts, that keeps you going long after everyone else has decided it isn't worth the effort. It is the persistence to follow your plan, your hunch, your intuition, when everyone you know is telling you that you are making a foolish mistake. When you've lost a skirmish or even a major battle, the right mental attitude is the little voice in your head that whispers, "I'll never make that mistake again." It's knowing that the painful lessons learned from temporary setbacks will make you a stronger and better person. It is the assurance that defeat is, after all, only temporary. You'll simply dust yourself off and charge back into the fray, only slightly the worse for the wear. When desire for a purposeful life becomes a fixed habit, it consumes so much of your time, attention, and energy that there is no place for a negative outlook. Here, then, is the starting point for the development of a right mental attitude. Though successful people come in all shapes and sizes, and in widely varying degrees of intelligence, background, and education, they nonetheless have one thing in common. They expect more good out of life than bad, and they expect to succeed more often than they fail. As you seek a worthy goal or ideal, take the attitude that there are more reasons why you can reach your objective than reasons why you can't. Set out to earn it. Go after it, ask for it, and 9 times out of 10 you'll get it. Your environment is really a mirror of your mental attitude. If you don't like your environment, you first have to change your attitude. The world plays no favorites. It is totally impersonal. It cares not who succeeds or who fails. Your attitude towards life doesn't affect the world and its inhabitants nearly as much as it affects you. It would be impossible to estimate the number of jobs that have been lost, the number of promotions missed, the number of sales blown, or the number of marriages ruined by poor attitudes. Unfortunately, there is no protection against those who, either by design or ignorance, poison the minds of others with negative suggestion. Just look about you. Look at those who enjoy their work, their families, and their lives. Now look at those who don't. What's the difference between the two? Happy and satisfied people control their mental attitude. They take a positive view of their world. When something isn't to their liking, they look first to themselves. They constantly learn more about their lives through personal self-development, which ultimately results in higher self-esteem and greater satisfaction. But those who are unhappy clutch the wrong mental attitude tightly. Indeed, it is almost as if they want to be unhappy. They search for everything about which to complain: their jobs, their spouses, their family, their lives. This form of mental self-destruction often destroys one's chances of acquiring riches or attaining one's goal. Studies made of the lives of thousands of successful people have shown that they radiate confidence and assurance. They expect success and they receive it in abundance. You can spot people who possess a right mental attitude by their walk, their speech, their outlook towards life. You can feel their presence when they enter the room. Whoever you are, you too can attract success. The pursuit of excellence. Human beings at the highest level of evolution have three forces at work: instinct and its development, called intuition, the unique capacity to pass on information, and the ability to take past knowledge and project it into the future. The progress of man is the result of these evolutionary factors. Mankind's substantial leap upward is generally built upon the accumulated knowledge of the past, and this progress is sometimes called the divine urge. Implanted within you is the need to continually improve your condition, a desire for fulfillment, a stirring ambition. These drives motivate you to seek and to find, to look within yourself and to seek without, to attain a way of life that will produce for you that new, better, more developed level of existence. Each time you desire a greater good, have a need for achievement, the divine urge impels you into action. It is right mental thinking for you to be fulfilled. It is right for you to have success and prosperity in your experience. But it is up to you to determine the nature of this fulfillment and the time frame. The pursuit of excellence must be pursued through thought, reason, and conscious acts. Man has special instincts that can be called the action of the human spirit. However you describe it, these instincts drive the human being toward accomplishment. Striving for the greater, the better, the noble is a valid quest. The right mental attitude leads to personal excellence. Words motivate, especially when they are offered in the spirit of a right mental attitude and come from someone whom we love and respect. As a young man, Jesse Hill was moved to personal excellence by his mother, a proud black woman with a formal education only through the 8th grade. She had a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. She would share her years of wisdom with her son. I stand on the shoulders of those gone before me, says Jesse Hill, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Atlanta Life Insurance Company. As much as I welcome compliments, I am not a self-made man. I cannot forget those who have sacrificed on my behalf. I was fortunate to experience the loving guidance of a mother who, although she never attended high school, worked hard to pave the way for me and my sister to secure an education. She stressed two key principles. One, give praise to God from whom all blessings flow. And two, always pursue excellence and give your best no matter what the task. Like many achievers, Hill lived by these and similar words, words that wiped out poverty and disappointment and emboldened his heart for future conquest. As a young boy in St. Louis, Missouri, Hill received an early dose of business training while working for his grandfather, who sold fruit, coal, and wood from a horse-drawn wagon to keep food on his family's table. Hill's modest earnings enabled him to attend Lincoln University, where he graduated with honors in mathematics and physics. A year later, he continued his education and earned a master's degree in business from the University of Michigan. After college, Hill set his sights on Atlanta, Georgia, having heard many favorable reports. Among the more interesting items was the news that an ex-slave, A.F. Herndon, had built a hugely successful insurance empire there that stood as a shining example to black enterprise. Hill's emotions raced as his professors told intriguing tales of Atlanta's skyrocketing growth and development. They thought a young man like himself might be able to make a decent start. Based on these conversations, Hill was hooked. His attraction became twofold. First, to Atlanta in general, and second, to Atlanta Life, the black institution that was the source of his inspiration. Hill hoped to make a contribution to both. Hill possessed raw energy that could penetrate. Upon his arrival, he convinced Atlanta Life officials of his deep sense of purpose and commitment. In order to learn every phase of the business, he toiled faithfully at the bottom in an entry-level position, spending his time searching for ways to make the firm more profitable and efficient. From there, he moved to planning, then sales, and finally management, leaving his imprint on every department. His civic involvement grew equally as fast. During his first 3 years at Atlanta Life, Hill spent nearly every evening serving Atlanta in a variety of capacities. For example, he taught Sunday school at his local church, served as secretary of the Atlanta Negro Business League, and even volunteered as a scoutmaster to provide leadership and direction to young black boys. In subsequent years, he held similar key positions with the NAACP, the Community Chest, and the Atlanta Urban League. To his surprise, his early community involvement did not go unnoticed. At 25, Hill became one of Atlanta's youngest citizens to be honored for his tireless effort in the city's black community. In 1973, after a promotion to vice president and chief actuary officer, Hill was selected by Norris Herndon, the son of the founder, to succeed him upon his retirement. Herndon appointed Hill president and chief executive officer. Hill's first bold initiative was to direct a new strategy that focused on acquisitions. Next, he launched a career sales and management academy for once overlooked business students of Atlanta's predominantly black colleges. The academy, which is based at Clark Atlanta University, is geared to place promising young candidates on the managerial fast track. Under Hill's tutelage, at a time when black insurance companies were facing severe economic hardships from larger, more competitive firms, Atlanta Life has continued to flourish and become a beacon of hope to other black institutions. In 1989, its net worth exceeded $130 million. Today, Jesse Hill is as much a key figure in the civic, political, and economic mainstream of black America as he is at Atlanta Life. He has earned a national reputation for his business savvy, serving on the corporate boards of Delta Airlines and Knight Ridder newspapers, while directing the effort of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. From administrative assistant to company president to civic directorships, Hill's involvement has been vast and wide. His many talents prompt, impel others to do their best. What was Hill's secret? That success arrives only through the pursuit of excellence and the right mental attitude. We are not all born with a drive for excellence like Hill's. That quality comes only from learning and experience. But we are born with exuberance and curiosity, and when these qualities are combined with great expectations, we can expect marvelous results. We try harder and put more of ourselves into what we do when we expect the best. An expectant attitude, an attitude that expects positive things to happen, that expects success, has an uncanny way of shaping future events and bringing together the most astonishing coincidences. Whether it's people, if you need people, or money, if you need money. Remember, life is nothing more than the sum total of many successful years. A successful year is nothing more than the sum total of many successful months. A successful month is the result of successful weeks, and so on. That's why practicing a right mental attitude is the surest way to win over the long term. Make it a habit. It's been said that life is dull only to dull people. It's equally true to say that life is interesting only to interesting people, or life is successful only to successful people. One of the sad realities of our world is that most people are unhappy in their work. Many people believe that if they could just make more money, they would enjoy their work. Ironically, it's the other way around. If people viewed their work with the right mental attitude, they would probably make more money. You have to enjoy your work naturally. Work must be an end in itself. But how? First, from an attitude standpoint, you must become mentally that which you wish to achieve. You must act, look, and feel successful before the success you seek will come. How does a person develop the right mental attitude? By forming the habit of developing a good, positive, expectant attitude towards life. Why? Because actions trigger feelings just as feelings trigger actions. Chances are that you know people who seem to be what others call lucky or get all the breaks. These achievers give the impression of happily sailing through life, having a joyous time, reaching one goal after another. If you will conscientiously undertake what I recommend and focus on this principle, you'll find yourself joining this small, happy, and extremely productive group. You'll find yourself becoming lucky, and most of your problems will take care of themselves. For the next 30 days, approach the world, everything and everyone with whom you come into contact, with an attitude that represents the kind of results you want to achieve. That is, if the outcome you wish is more success in your present line of work, act as though you already possess it. If you want others to treat you with admiration and respect, treat others with admiration and respect first. If you desire more from others, more love, more support, more time, then give of yourself first. Give your love, give your support, give your time first. For the next 30 days, treat every person you come in contact with as the most important person on earth. Do this for two reasons. First, as far as that person is concerned, he or she is the most important person on earth. You may never get him to admit this, but that's the way he feels. Second, do it because this is the manner in which human beings ought to treat each other. But everyone, you ask? Why should we treat the cab driver or waitress or delivery boy with the same respect and courtesy that we show to our family and friends? Again, for two reasons. First, by treating everyone in like manner, we form correct habits. Every man is where he is and what he is because of his habits. By repeating these thoughts and deeds, you are forming habits that will carry on automatically once they have been set in motion. Second, no one is more important than anyone else. By approaching everyone with the same warmth and generosity, you will touch all hearts with which you come in contact. There is nothing in the world that men, women, and children want and need more than the feeling that they're important, that they're needed and respected. They will give their love, their affection, their respect, and their business to the person who feels this need. A lesson from a child. On Saturday morning, a minister was busily trying to prepare his sermon under the most difficult conditions. His wife was out shopping. It was a rainy day, and his young son was restless and bored, with little to do. Finally, in desperation, the minister picked up an old magazine and thumbed through it until he came to a large, brightly colored picture. It showed a map of the world. He tore the page from the magazine, ripped it into little pieces, and scattered the scraps all over the living room floor with the words, "Son, if you can put this page together, I'll give you a quarter." The preacher hoped this might take his son most of the morning, but within 10 minutes there was a knock on his study door. His son had completed the puzzle. The minister was amazed to see that the boy had finished the project so soon, with the pieces of paper neatly arranged and the map of the world back in order. "Son, how did you get that done so fast?" his father asked. "Oh," the boy said, "it was easy. On the other side there was a picture of a man. I just put a piece of paper on the bottom, put the picture of the man together, and put a piece of paper on top, and then turned it over. I figured that if I got the man right, the world would be right." His father smiled and handed his son a quarter. "Not only have you earned that quarter, but you've given me my sermon for tomorrow. If a man is right, his world will be right." There's a great lesson in this tale. If you are unhappy with your world and want to change it, the place to start is with yourself, using the 3 magic words, right mental attitude. If you are right, your world will be right. Your attitude is the one thing over which you have absolute control. This is one of the most significant and inspiring facts known to man. The attitude control is the result of self-discipline and habit. Either you control your attitude or it controls you. There is no compromise. The most practical way to control your attitude is to develop the habit of staying focused on your goal. This is the starting point for the development of a right mental attitude. Study the record of any man or woman who has achieved success, and you will observe that he possessed the right mental attitude and directed his mind towards the attainment of definite objectives. They possess the right mental attitude. Call it desire, perseverance, determination. But it was the right mental attitude that provided General Colin L. Powell, the son of Jamaican immigrants, the springboard to rise to the position of chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, making him the #1 military officer in all the armed forces and the first black ever to occupy that post. Said the press of General Powell's appointment, "He is the model of a major staff officer, universally popular and respected within the White House. The president seems to be very comfortable with him." It took persistence, faith, and the right mental attitude to propel Robert Maynard from the streets of Bedford-Stuyvesant to the office of editor-in-chief of the Oakland Tribune. Maynard has become the first black editor, publisher, and owner of a major metropolitan daily newspaper. "Much of what I have learned," Maynard said, "has come by watching my father, who was a successful businessman in his own right. He established a pattern of excellence in education, matched only by hard work, and he felt anything could be accomplished by approaching it with the right mental attitude." Today, Robert Maynard is a man with his shoulder to the wheel. His mission is to continue to produce a quality newspaper that Oakland can be proud of. Family and friends tried to convince Donnie Cochran that his dream of becoming a member of the Navy's prestigious flight squad, the Blue Angels, was impossible. After all, they warned, no black had ever been selected to the precision flying team. Fortunately, Cochran turned a deaf ear and refused to listen to their advice. "I will reach my goals," he exclaimed. "The only question was when, not if." And that was answered in 1978 when he enrolled in aviator training school. 8 years later, the barriers had fallen. Lieutenant Commander Donnie Cochran mesmerized the Navy, as well as the naysayers in his native Pelham, Georgia, when he took command of the sleek sky blue A-4 Skyhawk aircraft. The right mental attitude enabled him to tame the skies. In 1940, while working in a feed mill for 25 cents an hour, Eddie Robinson was told by men with negative minds that he wouldn't amount to much. Undeterred, Robinson ignored his critics and concentrated on his first love, coaching football. Robinson had all the tools. He was an effective motivator and a good judge of young men. Deep within his heart, he felt that if he was willing to pay the price with hard work, determination, and the right mental attitude, his chance would come. Robinson was right. His chance did come. Tiny Grambling University offered him his first and only coaching job. Since 1941, he's been a fixture along the sidelines. Robinson's persuasive style and leadership attracted top national talent to the small black college tucked into the Louisiana foothills. 5 decades later, Eddie Robinson became the college football's all-time winningest coach. When probing sports writers asked for his key to success, the head coach said, "It's been said that no one can really motivate anyone else. All you can do is instill a positive attitude and hope it catches on." In the 1960s, Mary Frances Berry meant to have a full say in ending the racial and sexist myths of her day. Throughout her fabled career, Mary Berry has been an apostle of self-help, a fighter for dignity, and an unrepentant lover of her race. Even as a poor black child raised in the South, she dared to question and challenge the social norms of the day. Mary Berry would not be barred from making a difference. "My mother would say to me, 'You, Mary Frances, you're smart,'" she recounts, "but you have a responsibility to use your mind and go as far as it will take you." Due in part to the influence of her mother, Mary Berry refused to believe that women were born with innate limitations and set out to prove her worth. While studying both law and history during the day at Howard University, she worked full-time as a lab assistant in a D.C. hospital. It was a grueling schedule that lasted 4 years. More than once she was tempted to drop out because of the stress, the workload. In those times of difficulty, Mary leaned against her mother's words and strong teachings. Her favorite homily was the words written by Paul in Romans: "Glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope, and hope does not disappoint." Struggle takes a long time, she says. In order to succeed, you must be armed with the right mental attitude, because sometimes when it seems like you're losing, you're really winning. Over the years, Dr. Berry has hit all her targets. As past chairman of the Commission on Civil Rights, professor of history and law, member of the bar, scholar with many published books to her credit, assistant secretary of health, education, and welfare, and at 38, the first black woman to head a major college, the University of Colorado. She has been awarded more citations and honorary degrees than her office walls can hold. Let it be remembered that the sole difference between Mary Berry and her trying circumstances was this: Dr. Berry had a mind and controlled it through the use of a right mental attitude. This alone gave her the strength and the wings to carry her to success. Change your attitude and change your life. When a person develops the right mental attitude, he has already placed himself on the road to what he seeks. He has prepared the ground and planted the seed. He has made himself the embodiment of what he wants to become, and is using one of life's most precious gifts. The story of Bill Demby illustrates how it works. As a young man, Bill Demby didn't seem to have the stuff of which success is made. He grew up poor on Maryland's East Shore and was a country boy at heart. A basketball fanatic in high school, he hoped to play professionally, but when a guidance counselor told him he wasn't college material, he took a job making batteries at a nearby manufacturing plant. In 1970, he was drafted A year later, Demby's basketball hopes came to an abrupt end. On March 26, 1971, on a road outside Quang Tri, a Viet Cong rocket blew up the truck he was driving. The 20-year-old Army private from Price, Maryland, never saw it coming. It was like a quarter hit the side of the door. There was a ping sound, he recalled. All I remember is smoke filling the truck, and I saw my leg on the floor. Demby was helicoptered to the 95th Evacuation Hospital. There, minutes later, his left leg already severed below the knee. Doctors amputated his right leg after seeing that his foot had been so badly crushed as to make the leg useless. In the helicopter on the way to the hospital, Demby remembers wondering how my family would react, whether they would accept me. I knew I wasn't going to change inside, but society judges you physically. If my family held up, so would I. But he did change. Back home, he spent a year at the Walter Reed Army Hospital, and when he left, he began drinking heavily, as well as experimenting with drugs. One night after such a binge, he hit rock bottom when he passed out on his mother's couch. When I woke up, Demby said, I found my mother and sister clutching each other, crying. They told me I had said I was going to kill somebody. That's when I decided to turn my life around. Sports became Demby's rehab. He learned to ski while at Walter Reed, and in 1974 took up wheelchair basketball, playing in area tournaments. He found that participation in athletics gave him the self-confidence he needed to move ahead in other areas as well. And then it all came together. He was in Tennessee in 1987 at one such tournament sponsored by the U.S. Amputee Athletic Association when he was invited to audition for a DuPont commercial. The chemical firm had expanded its research into highly resilient plastics, the type that are used in prosthesis, making artificial limbs lifelike. Demby became one of the original testers of a new prosthesis called the Seattle Foot, developed for the U.S. Veterans Administration. The foot, made with DuPont Delrin acetyl resin, was more flexible than the limbs Demby used previously. Because the new prosthesis worked in the same manner muscles move, storing and releasing energy as a real foot does, they gave him the freedom to move and jump. This cleared the way for Demby to play stand-up basketball again. DuPont sent representatives of its advertising agency to the amputee tournament. Demby and 4 other disabled men wearing prosthesis played basketball, with personnel from the ad agency looking on. After a series of informal interviews, Demby was told that he had been selected from the 5 to be the star of the DuPont spot. However, Demby was far from thrilled. Hesitant at first, he had never exposed his artificial limbs to the public and seemed genuinely embarrassed. But in the end, he consented. The TV commercial was shot on a basketball court in New York City. It showed Demby holding his own in a rough-and-tumble game with able-bodied players and took a day to produce. The agency quickly put the commercial together while Demby, totally exhausted, flew back to Maryland. A month later, the spot aired on the national networks and changed his life forever. Bill Demby can't jump as well as he did when he was averaging 16 points a game for his high school basketball team in 1969. Nor can he dribble past would-be defenders as he did against other 18-year-olds. But through steel-like determination and the right mental attitude, Bill Demby has changed lives. One such magic moment happened on the streets near his home. One day, a stranger approached me. He told me that he had fallen onto bad times and explained the details of his difficulties. He had lost his job and his family had left him. He said that life had turned its back and he had given up hope until he saw my story on TV. Seeing me in that commercial, he said, turned him around. He thanked me for changing his life. Though it happens all the time, I never get used to it. I walked away so he wouldn't see me cry. Demby's inspiration and motivation have since become sought after. Ironically, after being told he wasn't college material, he enrolled in college and finished. He has grown accustomed to the public recognition, lifting spirits wherever he goes. He has also expanded his athleticism to include other sports, running, track and field, and drag racing. Perhaps one of his most commendable activities is his involvement in programs like the Disability Awareness Project and the National Handicap Sports and Recreation Association. He brings much needed attention to the nation's largest minority group, disabled Americans. Fortunately, not everyone is faced with problems severe as Demby's. There is a lesson in his story. No one will ever know the number of lives he has touched. Thousands are facing their rehabilitation efforts with greater determination and courage because of his inspiration. Let each of us look inward to make sure that we give of ourselves. We must give our time, our support, our love, and our attitude. Before metal can be cast into a desired shape, the mold must first be fashioned. Before a building can be erected, the excavation must be constructed and the foundation put in place. Before a person can achieve the kind of life he desires, he must become that kind of individual. He must think, act, talk, walk, and conduct himself in all of his affairs as would the person he wishes to become, in the spirit of a right mental attitude. He is then actually that person, and the things that person would have and do will naturally come to him. What lies ahead? It's true. A right mental attitude takes effort, patience, and practice to gain and maintain. But a definite purpose, clear thinking, creative vision, action, and persistence, all applied with enthusiasm and faith, will go far to help you achieve and maintain a positive and upbeat attitude. Remember, if the man is right, his world will be right. What lies ahead? All that you desire. Begin now to acquire the right mental attitude by using the following mind conditioners. Number 1, it is your attitude toward life that will determine life's attitude toward you. Feed your mind with positive, nourishing thoughts, just as you feed your body with nourishing food. Program your mind with faith, hope, and enthusiastic expectancy. Replace every doubt with a faith stronger than doubt. Overcome negative thinking or negative mental attitudes. Your basic thought should be, I can if I know I can. Negative thoughts will produce negative results, while positive thinking draws positive experiences into your life. Number 3, before you can achieve the type of life you desire, you must become the type of individual you desire to be. You must think, act, walk, talk, and conduct yourself in your affairs as would the person you wish to become. Overcome any sense of inferiority. An inferiority complex is, after all, only a mental outlook on life. It is merely a denial that there is a power greater than you, a power great enough to overcome any obstacle. Number 4, radiate the attitude of well-being and confidence. The person who knows where he is going will soon find that good things just seem to happen. Number 5, make prayer and affirmative meditation a part of your life. Prayer is not something that should be reserved for life's emergencies. Your entire life should be a prayer. Pray as if everything depended on God, and act as if everything depended on you. Number 6, the deepest craving of human beings is to be needed, to feel important, to be appreciated. Give appreciation, and others will return appreciation to you. Number 7, part of the right mental attitude is To look for the best in new ideas. Innovate, create, and search for new ideas. Number 8. Don't waste your time discussing personal problems. It probably won't help you and cannot help others. Number 9. For the next 30 days, treat everyone with whom you come into contact as the most important person on earth. If you'll do this for 30 days, you'll do this for the rest of your life.